Kia ora. What do you dread most when you go into your local supermarket? Is it whether you can find what you want, or is it the prices? And I'm believing that it's prices. Because I've noticed, and with the lower priced items, perhaps 50 cents more, perhaps $1 or $2 more, and of course with the bigger prices, they're going up considerably more, and that is the problem we are going to face this year. Now, we're not through the wood yet, it's still carrying on, and we've got a long way to go. Now, the other problem, of course, is out of stock, which is OOS in the trade. When the shelves you go in, they're empty, there's nothing there that you want. You can't find what you're looking for, and this is the other problem. So the two problems we're looking at is price, where the prices are trickling up. Now, I've advised, and I've been doing a podcast for quite a long time now, and I've advised that think about private label, because a lot of the private label products are made by the same people whose brands you're buying. So try it and see, because you'll find obviously the private label is cheaper. Why? Because there's no marketing done of private label products. They all belong to the store. They put them into their flyer, but there's nothing else other than that. So private label is a good direction to go if you feel things are costing just too much at the moment, and it's, as I say, it's not going to go away. So farm around a bit, have a look around, do a bit of browsing when you've got time, and make a decision as to what you're going to do to try and beat the price rises. The other thing, of course, is shortages, lack of product on shelf. Now, this is an interesting one because there's a double prong to this. The first prong is things that come in from overseas, and obviously things that come in from overseas, they're taking longer to get here, and when stocks run low, it's taking longer to replenish. But the other problem that people don't realise is also affecting products, food products made in this country. Why? Because of the ingredients. These products, some of the products have ingredients coming in from overseas. We don't grow them or make them in this country. And that's the other problem, lack of ingredients. And so you've got two problems facing you as soon as the doors swish open and you go into the supermarket. Prices and then lack of stock. And that's frustrating, but I'm not going to start talking about what you should get and what you shouldn't get, because that's going to create a problem of panic buying, and that doesn't help anybody. So I'm just saying that expect the worst. And the odd thing is, and you'll probably laugh at this, but the odd thing is prunes. Now that's an interesting one, isn't it? And it's not because of problems in the supply chain. What's causing this? The growers have decided that they don't make enough money out of growing prunes and dried fruit. They make more money out of growing coffee. So therefore, a lot of growers are getting rid of their prune vines or whatever they grow them on, and they're moving over to coffee. And that's another reason for that particular one. But there are lots of other things that come and go. And coming from overseas, sometimes they disappear for a while and then come back. But let's look ahead and let's think about what is going to be happening this year. The big thing that's going to be happening is the Commerce Commission, which is known as ComCom for short, market study on supermarkets. Now, I sat through many hours on Zoom watching and listening to what was being said during the cross-examination by the people from ComCom, and now the situation is over. It's not over, but the study is finished. They're now looking at what they've got, what they've learned, and making a decision as to what they're going to be putting to the government. Now, it sounds simple, and they're talking about March when this final report will be revealed, but that's not the end of it. That's just another stage, because once that report is out, then it will go to the MPs and they'll talk about it. The lobby groups, as you can imagine, are going to be hot at work. So if you're a lobbyist and working for a company, you're going to be very busy, and they'll make a lot of money out of this, because the supermarkets are not going to sit there and say, oh, okay, well, we're going to lose a few stores and maybe our business will be reducing, but that's all right. They're not going to sit there and wait for it to happen. Now, what is ComCom actually planning with this? ComCom is planning to make sure that the supermarkets are reduced in size, because there's the duopoly, which the foodstuffs CEO said, oh, it's not a duopoly. Well, if you only have two major players, is it not a duopoly? It is a duopoly. So the duopoly is going to be reduced in size, because it's the only way they can get competitors to come on board. And there are competitors out there, but they've said, oh, there are too many restrictions on the supermarkets in place, with limitations on the nearest another competitor can come, and all this sort of thing. And so they are going to look at these, and they're going to take away some of these restrictions to allow other players into the marketplace. But that's the first thing. The second thing is reduce the number of stores that are already existing belonging to the duopoly. Now let's first look at the easy one, which is Countdown. Now Countdown is part of Woolworths New Zealand Group. Nothing to do with the old Woolworths New Zealand that used to be. Now, Countdown is a chain store, which means it belongs to shareholders in Australia and is managed by managers. That's the biggest part of Woolworths New Zealand Group. The other part is the franchises. Franchises are SuperValu and Fresh Choice. Those are the franchises. Now, they're the easy ones because they're owner-operated. Woolworths New Zealand Group provides most of the product they sell, but the actual building itself and the people running it are individual owners. Now, that will be a lot easier to sell off, because they only need to anyone coming in only needs to change the name from Fresh Choice to whatever, or SuperValu to whatever, and away they go. So that's the easy one. And Countdown, of course, is a chain store. Very easy to sell off some of those stores. No problems at all. So now, where's the problem area? Foodstuffs. Foodstuffs and the media are a lot to blame for this. The media doesn't understand the difference between what Foodstuffs does and what the franchises are with Fresh Choice and SuperValu. Now, Foodstuffs is a cooperative. It's not a franchise, it's a cooperative. So the owner-operators own the stores and they manage the stores, and they are part of separate companies. So they set themselves up and they give a name to their company and they operate individually. So it's very hard to be able to work out revenues and profits and so on, because you don't know what the name of the company is. But Foodstuffs itself is a wholesaler. So Foodstuffs supplies the product to the stores that are owned by individuals, but Foodstuffs owns the brands. So they own Pack and Save, they own New World, they own Foursquare, and the other little ones around the country. For that situation, and Foodstuffs has already said, these stores are our members' livelihoods. So therefore, if the stores are sold, then their livelihood is gone out of the window. So that's going to be a more difficult situation for ComCom to deal with, because I know right away, I'm not sure what Woolworths Australia will do, but certainly as far as Foodstuffs is concerned, they're not going to lie down on this. They are going to fight this. They'll fight it all the way. And if necessary, they'll fight it to the Supreme Court, I'm sure, because they are not going to let go that easily. They don't want to lose their strength. They've got their Pack and Save, which is the biggest and most popular store in the country. Their New World coming up behind, and then Foursquare, which in the South Island is a supermarket, and in North Island is a convenience store. Now, some of those, ComCom will say, you've got to sell these, and there will be a big fight over this, because I've seen it happen before. We've seen it happen over other things, I'll give you an example. In East Auckland, Highland Park, there are two Countdowns next door to one another. One is in what is known as the Highland Park Shopping Centre. Well, some time ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, Foodstuffs bought the shopping centre, and all the little shops that were there, they're all empty, and their aim was to take over the whole thing, knock down the small countdown and build a pack and save. But the problem with the small countdown is it has a lease, and the lease at that time had about 13 years to run. And so Countdown took them, not Countdown, Foodstuffs took Countdown to court and said, right, we want you to have that lease stopped because we want to take over the store. And the court said, no, it's a legal document, it's a legal contract, and we cannot stop it. You've got to wait till it finishes. So that went to court and everywhere. And in Aotearoa Park was another example where Foodstuffs wanted to build a pack and save, and they fought Countdown over that too for a long time. It even went to London to be fought over that when our Supreme Court was in London. So these things will take time, and it's going to take well into the year and even into another year before that sort of situation is resolved. So in the meantime, let me just look at one other area, which is some news that has just come to mind, is that Coles in Australia, they're very keen at looking at the Countdown operation for the stores that are sold off, because they're a chain store too. So that's another area that there could be a lot of fighting over, but this is going to be a battle royal that we're going to see this year. So, right, that's up to date with where we are at the moment. Now, let me just say briefly, who am I? I've been a journalist for many years. I've been a journalist in New Zealand for over 20 years, and I started editing trade magazines linking suppliers to supermarkets, and I've also written a book about it called Checkout, which gives a lot of the histories of supermarkets in this country, talks a little bit about supermarkets overseas, and that is something that I decided to do when I stopped editing, because it was all up here and I thought, if I don't write this down, it's going to disappear. So that's me. I'll be back here regularly to talk about supermarkets, and you can also find me on my Supermarket Sleuth page, New Zealand Supermarket Sleuth, on Facebook. Cheers.